Hello, welcome to Pursuit of Relentless Podcast. You've got your host here, Elena, and today we are going to dig into some awesome content. So get your notepads ready. I have Alicia Ober with me today, and I am super excited to get to know your story and how you got started in business. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about your business, how it got started, what led you to where you're at today.
Okay. So I have two programs that I'm offering. One is called Love Over Loss, and it's a coaching program, individual and grouping. And the idea behind it is there's so much loss and trauma in our lives and in society. And I wanted to refocus on the love that people can have for themselves and shift that focus away from the loss that they've experienced. The other program that I've created is called Hiking to Heal. And the mission for that is to have the chance to hike and release the pain that you've been carrying and reclaim your purpose. I believe in the therapeutic benefit of just being outdoors with people who've experienced some kind of loss as well. There's such a healing benefit of just being outside.
I agree 100%. This morning I went for a walk and there's beautiful trails up and behind my house. So I am so grateful for that. I get to hike every day in the wilderness and I'm just like, I can't wait for the bears to come out and it's just going to be beautiful. But the birds were just chirping so loud today. And I was like listening to an audiobook and just walking through the forest. And I had to turn off my audiobook. So I was like, this is too good to miss, like it's just so incredible and so peaceful out today. And it was so sunny. And I was like, spring is sprung, and I felt so good. So the snow's melting. Like it's just, you can just breathe
That's
again.
Awesome. Yeah. And the one thing that's so beneficial about being outside is that it gets you in that present moment. And so many times, we're lost in our own thoughts, either things that we're worrying about right now or things that are unresolved from our past, or we're worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And when you're outside, you can just be present in that moment. You can be here now.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So what led you to the coaching world?
Well, it's sort of a long journey, but I I lost my father when I was a teenager to suicide. That led me to move out of my house and sort of be on my own as a teenager, and ended up meeting my husband while I was in school, and I had a little apartment on a little town that I grew up in, and we got married. He joined the military, and we traveled around a little bit. We got stationed overseas, and he was killed in a helicopter crash in 2003. So in the next 6 months, my daughter and I stayed over in Italy while we were trying to figure things out. We had the funeral. We flew back to the United States for the funeral, and then we came back to the United States and settled down in the Virginia Beach area of Virginia. And my mom ended up dying a few years later. So I have had a lot of loss. And through all of that, what has helped me cope with it was some counseling as well as exercise. So I've always been very big into going to the gym and exercising, running, biking, all that stuff, playing beach volleyball. And when my daughter was old enough for me to go back and pursue completing my degree, I waited till she was in high school so that I could be there for her for all the things. I worked part-time, but I had my work schedule around when, while she was at school, basically. And I went back and got my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and became a counselor and worked in the ER. And one of the things that I saw while volunteering at a free clinic that our hospital had was there's so much unresolved grief and loss that people don't talk about.
Yes.
And they don't know how to move forward with their life. So, there would be times when people would fall down and break their leg, or they drank too much and they have pancreatitis, or, whatever, various other reasons that brought them into the ER. But the free clinic that I worked at gave 60 days of free counseling on top of social worker, gave them some stuff as well. And nurses checked in on their meds. It's good for the people who didn't have insurance. And I had so many people, client after client, that I would see in this free clinic had this unresolved grief and loss, and they didn't know how to move forward with their life. And so I wanted to come up with another way of helping people who have experienced some kind of traumatic loss move forward with their life. And so that's why I went on and got a certification in high performance coaching through Brendan Burchard's program.
Cool.
Yeah. And so then I just wanted to be able to help other people who've experienced loss in a different way than counseling, because I do believe people need counseling, but they also need something like a bigger push afterwards.
They need support.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brendan said something on one of his YouTube videos one time that stuck with me, and it's literally written on my mirror. And you don't know this, but it's so good. He said, "Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter?" And I was like, I just like broke down crying, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah. Like when I went through that training with him, he teaches all of it. And he talks about how he came to do what he does is because he had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
So I ended up having a near-death experience last year, almost drowning. Barely made it out alive. I credit my belief in my ability to, my strength and ability to climb out of the rocks that was basically an underwater tomb for me, and not giving up, because I could have given up. I tried multiple times and I kept getting pushed back down. But I also believe like I still have this greater purpose, right? And so that's why I ended up taking drastic changes in my life. I ended up recently quitting my job. And so I'm moving forward with these programs because I recognize how short life is. And I will never forget what he said, that quote that you have, like same thing, that my life matter, and, he said when he had that near-death experience in a car accident, that it completely changed his life. And so for me, that was like the last wake-up call. I'd already experienced so much loss and trauma, but that was my last, like, okay, it's time to do the things you've been wanting to do full time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I listened to his story and I was just sitting there in awe, because when you think about your life in those terms, did I live? Did I live today? Did I have fun? Did I like go out and like do something good for myself? I'm doing a bar class today and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this to myself? And it's like, wait, because I want to be fit and strong, and I need someone to kick my ass sometimes, like really push me, because I can go for a walk or a run and that's great and all, but am I actually challenging myself? Am I putting myself in uncomfortable positions? Am I like, going that extra mile? And a lot of the days, the answer is no, right? So I'm like, okay, well, did I live, right? Did I do something that was exciting and that pushed me forward? Did I love? Did I spend time with my dog today? Or did I just walk her? Did I spend time with my husband today, or talking to my family, or doing something for myself that, like you said, you're talking about going for a hike and healing, because you have to, there's those moments that you're just like frustrated and stressed out. And if you don't add love to that equation, you're just going to stay in that place. But the second that you add love and gratitude and excitement, then you're able to elevate your emotions so much more. And it's so beautiful. So did I live? Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Right? Contribution. Did I contribute today? Did I make a difference in the world? And like, that's why I do the podcast. And it seriously just like lights my soul on fire. And I think that when you can go out, and my business as well, I'm in financial services, right? So if I teach people about money and like how to get wealthy and how to have their dreams and goals actually achieved, then I'm like, this is so good. So it's the days that I'm like not busy. It's the days that I'm like, oh, I only have 3 appointments today, or I'm just like struggling with myself because I have too much time to think. And I find the days that I'm the most satisfied is the days when I don't have time to think. I don't have time to get in my head and to go into those dark places of trauma and frustration. And you just get into this zone of gratitude instead. And you can just go, hey, I made a difference today. I did something good for myself. I did something good for the world. And I tell myself every day, I create the impact that I have on the world. And if I go into my day that way, just focused on how can I contribute? How can I get back? How can I live, love, and matter? Then there's no reason I wouldn't be happy,
I agree. I think it comes down to intentionality.
Yeah.
Like, so, I think a lot of times people are focused on, oh my gosh, I have to do these things today. I have to go, like you mentioned, I have to go to the bar class. But when you shift that mindset and you're like, but I get to, my intention is I get to do this because it's making me stronger. And it gives you that new purpose instead of focusing on the things that you have to do or the things that are going wrong. So I love that, you said that sometimes if you look at it like the live, love, matter, I mean, that it's such a great mantra for him to really like share with the world, because when you break it down that way, how can you not start to rethink some of the things that you're doing in your life?
Yeah. The mantra I tell myself every morning is I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm free. And if I tell myself that every day, eventually I'll believe it, or eventually it will happen for me because that's what I'm focused on. And I think there's been too many days when I've been focused on making money, or I'm too focused on, trying to be in control of everything, for example. And then sometimes you just have to understand you got to let go and just let it happen. And everything's going to happen the way that it's meant to, because we were created for a purpose. And I think when you step into your purpose, you're able to really just shine through and just go, hey, this is me. This is who I am. I'm not perfect. Neither are you, and you just can practice being happy more often, and smiling and sitting in those places of gratitude versus the stress and the trauma. And like you said, when you share it with someone else, it doesn't hurt as much. I find, like, when I go back to when I lost the baby, I'm like, okay, well, if I sit in that moment and go, oh my goodness, there's still days I cry about it, right? Because I'm still devastated and whatever, that's okay. You're allowed to be sad, but you shouldn't sit in that and just like stay there, because then you can't get out of it and it's just draining. And if you change the mindset to, hey, I'm going to share this with someone. And so I called my friend Angela Bradford, and she was just like, Alina, you got to go public with this. And I was like, I don't want to. It's just so sad.
Well, being vulnerable is scary.
Yeah, totally. And she's like, you should go public with it. And you know how healing that was?
Yeah.
So healing. Just to go, hey guys, I'm not alone. Do you know how many messages I got from people going, me too, me too, me too, me too. And I'm like, oh, so you speaking up can empower other people to get rid of their hurt and trauma, right? Because then they don't feel like they're alone. And I had one girl tell me she'd never even told her parents. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just went public with it, I just like posted it on the internet. But it's when you share your story that you can truly empower other people.
Yeah, I agree. And, I used to facilitate a grief group for people who had experienced the loss of a child. And it was such a bonding experience for them to come, and they didn't have anyone else in their lives that they could talk to. Right. This is obviously pre-COVID. And for them to get together and have that chance, it was once a month that we got together. And just for them to not only share what each other was going through, but it also helped normalize, because when you've had a loss like that, sometimes you have good days and sometimes you have bad days. And like you mentioned, it's important not to sit with it, acknowledge that those feelings are there, the sadness, the tears, but you don't want to sit with it for too long to the point that it's changing the course of your day, right? Or your ability to still go out and do things that day. And so
that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah. And so for it to have these other people in that group experience normalized, sounds like that's what you had. You shared your story and then other people like, wow, I'm not alone. It is so easy to feel like you're all alone. And, that's one of the reasons that I started doing these things, is because I want to reduce the impact of loneliness that seems to have impacted so many people around the world. And I know that I suffered from it at some points in my life. Sorry for the jet noise.
I was like, what is that? I thought I was just going to pause us and go, what just happened there? It literally was just like super clear and then not.
I know. I happen to live near a very huge military jet base. So I was hoping they wouldn't be doing any flyovers nearby, but it sounds like that was one of them.
That's okay. It's over now.
Yeah. Hopefully there won't be anymore.
life. It happens sometimes. Like you just never know what's going to get thrown your way, but guess what? We work through it.
Yeah. And I know that, there's been so many times when I have felt all alone in the world. I didn't know anybody else who lost a husband initially, except for the other pilot's wife who was in the helicopter.
Right.
But we didn't live near each other at the time. And then after that, like after I lost both parents, I was like, I don't know anybody else who's lost both parents and a husband. Like I walked around not wanting to share the story for a while because I was like, no one's going to relate. No one's going to understand. And then the more, like you said, the more you talk about it, the more you share, you realize it's not even about you anymore. Like it's about, so yes, I went through these things that I've overcome, but by me sharing, I'm helping somebody else who still feels siloed in their suffering.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about compassion fatigue because we were talking about it in our pre-interview. And I think it's really important to understand that when you're giving a lot of yourself, you need to re-energize. So maybe tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I've experienced compassion fatigue working in the ER. And I think it changed my view of myself in a sense, because I always felt like I was really good at absorbing everybody else's trauma. I can deal with it. I've already dealt with my own stuff. Like I can hold it all in and still go to work every single day. Right. And it gets to a point where like, when you realize that you want to sleep more, or you're eating less, or you're eating more, or you don't want to exercise, you're not finding any sort of joy in the things that you used to do. It's time to take a look and go, okay, what's going on here? Like, and you get to that point where you're feeling burned out.
Yeah.
You can only absorb so many other people's traumas in a role like I was working in the ER as a crisis clinician, before you have to start to do something for yourself. Whether that's, I'm a firm believer in self-care, regardless of what your profession is or what you do in life. Everybody needs to take a little bit of time for themselves. It would be great if we could do it daily, but even if it's just weekly, once or twice a week, and that looks like that's something different for everybody, right? Some people want to take a bubble bath and put a candle on and listen to some music and drink a glass of wine. And some people, self-care is just like, I just want to go outside and walk around for a little bit. And, some people are like, I want to go to listen to some live music. Like self-care is whatever it is that fuels your soul, whatever it is that brings that joy back, that brings you alive. And sometimes it's just taking a nap.
Right.
Everybody has something different. I know that I napped a lot when I felt like I was just getting to the breaking point of compassion fatigue, for sure. And it was like, because it was a way for me to shut off my brain and not think about everything.
Yeah, exactly. And there's those moments when you don't want to think about everything. But I think it's really important to understand that that's not your energy. That's other people's energy that you've taken on. And for those of you who want more information on energy work, go research Dr. Joe Dispenza. Oh my gosh. Like he's so amazing. Good. So good. Talking about vibration levels and like how to attract the things that you want by being at a higher vibration. But guess what? Being at a higher vibration just means you're happier and more fulfilled, and you can attract so much more to yourself if you're focused on the good and focused on what's happening for the positive versus sitting in those low places of anger and frustration and fear. I think it's very, very important to take care of yourself. So I do angel cards. If you're watching the video, you can see them behind me. But I do stuff like that to connect with the spirit. And I'm not a religious person. I'm more of an energy worker. I try and focus on upping my energy every day, because if I'm at my best, I can give more of myself. Right. And I think a lot of parents in particular don't recharge themselves. Like they give and give and give and give and give. And I'm like, just take 10 minutes, just go for whatever it is that, like you said, that recharges you. Take a little nap. Yesterday, I did a little meditation laying on my couch because I was just like so tired, like when you give so much of yourself, you have to recharge. And Brendan talks about I think he said every 50 minutes he stands up and like does some jumping jacks or something. And
he
I was
does
like,
that, and he has a couple different exercises. Yeah.
so smart, because it just helps you go, okay, you shake it off, right? You're like, okay, when you've been sitting for a long period of time, for example, it's hard to just go, oh, I need to get up and walk around, right? I have a watch now that tells me, let's move. And I'm like, yeah, let's move, like get up and do something. I don't need to sit in my computer, and I sit on an exercise ball. So if you see me like rolling around, that's why, because I like to be engaged. I like to like really focus on what I'm doing. And when I'm sitting on a ball, I can't get lazy because I'll fall over, So it's just one of the techniques that I've used to help me stay energized. But maybe you could give some techniques to the listeners on what else you suggest for re-energizing.
So one of the things that I tell everyone is I'm a firm believer in getting up early in the morning.
Yeah.
So not everybody can get up at 5:30 every single day like I like to. I wake up now it kind of depends, like if I'm traveling, that time adjusts a little, but every day between 5:30 and 6. And what that does is I'm awake before anybody else. I mean, I live alone with my dog. But like, let's just say that you live with other people. If you wake up at least 30 minutes before everybody else does, it gives you that time to be alone. And one of the very first things I do, I get up, I let my dog outside to use the bathroom, and then I come back and I make my bed. It does two things for me. One, I accomplish the very first task of the day, right?
Yeah.
So then I it's done. And then two, I'm not getting back in bed. If I made it, that means I got to get up and do my things, and then I'm a firm believer in drinking some water. Like water re-energizes people. Whether it's you're drinking water first thing in the morning, like I like to do, but it's important to drink water like all throughout the day. It hydrates you, it gives you more energy, some movement in the morning. Sometimes meditation can re-energize people, especially people who have a hard time falling asleep. So if you have a hard time falling asleep, maybe journaling at night before you go to sleep would be helpful, but also maybe meditating in the morning for your brain to activate and think about all the things that because you never know what's going to come to you when you meditate, right? So you meditate for 5 to 10 minutes if you don't have a lot of time, and then journal if you have a few minutes. Journal what it is that came to you and get it out of your head, so then you can focus on what else you have to do for that day. So my biggest tip is, if you can, and 99% of people can, if they just make some adjustments in their schedule, wake up at least 30 minutes before you used to, and start incorporating. Not everybody has the same exact schedule that I do or routine, but figure out what works for you. But by waking up 30 minutes, that gives you that 30 minutes to yourself before your kids, before your husband or partner is up, just to do the things that you want to do. And maybe it is just listen to some music that you want to, dance around the kitchen, like whatever it is, light a candle, whatever it is that you enjoy on your own time, but that's your time before, and you're focusing your energy on anyone else. And I'm a big believer in that wherever your energy flows is where whatever you're thinking of is where your energy is flowing, right? Whatever actions you're taking is where your energy is flowing. So just by getting up early, moving your body a little bit, and drinking some water is huge energy boosters. But yeah, I do love Brandon's idea of moving your body at least once every hour. And a lot of people, that's hard because they're sitting at a desk and they can't do that. But what if so if you can't do the once an hour, what about once every 6 hours? Like, work with what you got. Everybody's situation is going to be different. But the same rules apply. It's just like getting up and moving your body.
Yeah. Or like, if you can't get up off your desk, lift your legs, do leg lifts, like do some arm lifts. I don't know, like just get excited and understand your body is a pumping mechanism. So if you just sit stagnant for 12 hours a day, which I used to do because I was a haul truck operator, but it's just so crazy how quickly you fall into that low energy because you're tired because your body's not moving and it needs to move to pump properly, right? So I just went and had acupuncture done recently. And she said, Elena, you have a lot of stagnation in your blood. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. Like, what does that mean? She's like, you've got some energy blocks. Like, it's not moving the way that it's supposed to. And you want your blood to flow. She's like, you just want it to flow. And I'm like, yes, I do. Please help me with this. And she said, just get yourself moving every day. And she asked me what my routine is. And I said, I get up and I have a coffee. She said, pause there. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, eliminate the coffee first thing in the morning, introduce tea, for instance, or take your probiotics in the morning on an empty stomach. And I was like, oh, little things like that. If you can just understand what isn't serving your body. She said, have your coffee with your breakfast. Like you can still drink coffee, whatever, but don't have it as the first thing that you consume in the morning, because then you're already messing with your natural mechanisms that are trying to serve your body, right? Like you're just sabotaging yourself. And I'm like, dang it, I don't want to sabotage myself. So the last couple of days I've been having, Ursina sent me some, it's called Happy Time tea or something like that. And it has ginger and lemon and it's really lovely. So I've been having that, and my probiotics are ginger flavored because I buy the Arbonne ones that are shelf stable, which I like a lot. So I put that in there and a little bit of honey and a little bit of lemon. And I'm like, that works. That's still really good. Right. And it's not as acidic as coffee is and stuff like that. So
have you noticed a difference? I mean, it's only been a couple of days, but
yes and no. So I've noticed that it's not the coffee that I want. It's a warm liquid, right? I just want something warm and cozy and makes me feel like I'm warm on the inside so that I'm like, okay, energized, because I hate being cold. So I've been having that. And this morning I did what you're saying. I took a bath and read my book in the bath and had my tea and had some crystals in there. And I don't know, I felt energized. I just felt good and excited for the day. And then I got to walk my dog and now she's like passed out, which is good. Because she's just going to rejuvenate now too. And then she'll get up and be all playful. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. You can just go out and have a good time. And that was all before 9 a.m. this morning. Yeah. And then you just feel like you've accomplished so much that day, even though it's the beginning of the day.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing how, what your morning routine is, or what the things that you can find that fuel your happiness and that bring joy into your life, how that could positively impact your day, the rest of your day. Like you said, it was like all that was before 9 a.m. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome. The habits that I've learned over time that I've developed. And I don't want to say perfected because there's still days that I mess it up, but I'm still trying to figure out like when I should journal during the day, because I'm not 100% consistent. And I'm like, I know that if I want to get to the next level in my life and my business, for example, these are the kinds of things that I need to do, is sit there with myself and go, okay, Elena, where are you failing? Where are you losing that energy? Where are you losing that focus? What are you struggling with? And sometimes that takes someone else to tell you, because you can't see it. And you're like, where are my blind spots? What am I doing wrong? How am I not where this person is if I'm doing the same things that they're doing? Right. But obviously I'm not doing the same things that they're doing, because they've got that 1% different, that 1% little shift, like the drinking the tea versus drinking the coffee is better for my gut health. And maybe I'll digest food properly. Right. And avoid spikes in my insulin. I don't know. Like there's just those little tips and tricks that I'm like, hydrate in the morning. That's a great idea. Right. So I've been doing the tea in the morning, and I'm not getting headaches. And prior I was just like cutting out coffee altogether. Right. And I was like, okay, well, that sucks because I love coffee. And I'm like,
I'm sure you had a headache for a couple of days when you did that.
I sure did. Mm-hmm.
I actually had some gut issues a couple of years ago when I did the elimination diet, where you eliminate like the majority of everything, including coffee. And I had a headache for like 4 days after not drinking coffee, because I went cold turkey. So when your body's used to having a cup of coffee every day, it's amazing the detox process you have to go through when you give it up.
It's insane.
I love how you mentioned.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I love what you mentioned about self-reflection. I really do believe that that is so powerful, because a lot of times people aren't taking the time to, they're trudging along in life and they don't take the time to look back and go, okay, what worked and what didn't? And what changes can I make to make things better? I think it's so important for people to do that. And I know that a lot of times people don't look back or reflect on the choices that they've made, or reflect on the direction that their business is going on, or reflect on the way that they talk to their significant other, or the time that they spend, flipping through TikToks instead of focusing on something else. And so until you actually do a reflection on what your habits and actions are, you're not going to really make any progress. So I love that you brought that up. That's perfect. Still important for people to do.
Something that I need to do better, and I've got a couple of people in my business right now that they tend to go to the victim mindset, and I'm just getting so frustrated. And, you're just like sitting there going, why aren't they having these breakthroughs? And I'm like, oh, they're not reading books, or they're not listening to the podcast, or they're not taking notes, and they're not reflecting. They're not sitting in those moments going, yes, I listened to all of this stuff, but it's not doing anything for me. And I sit there and I go, how much of the work are you doing? Right? Are you listening to what they're telling you, or are you doing the work that they're telling you to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference maker, is when you're actually doing the elimination diet to see what does not serve your body. And Jody Hardy is one of the coaches that I work with. And she was like, there's a difference between thriving and surviving.
Oh, I agree.
And she said, once you figure out what your body thrives on, you won't want anything else. Like, you don't want to eat dairy if dairy causes you discomfort. You won't want to have gluten if it causes you discomfort, and I did the elimination diet as well. And seriously, it was like insanity. It was crazy what having a plan looked like when it came to my food. And I was like super nervous. And she's like, Elena, you just got to plan it out. Just plan it out. Because I was going camping and I was like freaking out, because what do you do when you camp? You drink and you eat chips and marshmallows and burgers and hot dogs.
You have all the comfort, easy foods. Yeah.
Yeah. So she said, okay, so how long are you going for? I said 4 days. And she said, okay, so now we're going to plan your meals. And so that's what I did. And I had never had a better camping trip, because I didn't feel shitty. I felt good. And I was just like excited, because she said, no, it's not that you can't have marshmallows, just don't eat 12 of them. You can have one marshmallow or maybe two, but then understand what that's going to do to your body, and watch what it does to your body and observe it. And I was like, oh, so I actually started the reintroduction process while I was camping, which was very interesting. I found out what my body does not like very quickly, and haven't really given into those things since, because when I'm sitting there going, why am I not feeling well? Or why is my gut health just like, ugh, why do I feel low energy? It's because of the food I was eating.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize how much of an impact that had on my mental health, honestly.
Yeah.
So I love that you were talking about incorporating fitness and that kind of stuff into your routine as well, because I think it helps you up your energy big time.
I agree. And, for the people that you mentioned that you might be out there that have the victim mentality, right? They have some goals that they want to accomplish, but they're stuck in the, oh my gosh, I can't do it because of this, whatever the excuse is. I'm not going to come up with any, because there's tons of excuses out there, right? Because of, you're in that scarcity mindset instead of the abundance mindset. For all those people, I think one of the best things that they could do is get an accountability partner, whether that's a coach, whether that's somebody else trying to accomplish the same goal as you, but find somebody that's actually successful or has done the thing that you want to do, or is actually going to hold you accountable. Don't call your best friend and say, I know you're going through some hard things too, so why don't we be each other's accountability partner? No, you want to find somebody that's already doing something that you want, has already succeeded in something that you want to succeed in, or at least is helping other people in a similar type of place that you are in, it can make a world of a difference. An accountability partner. I don't know if you've had an experience with that or not.
I sure have. Again, I go back to Angela Bradford. So she had a WhatsApp chat that was going through her daily 5. And the daily 5 is reading your goals twice a day out loud, reading 10 pages of a good book, like a personal development book, moving your business forward, being accountable, and pre-planning your day. So she had a WhatsApp chat that was going through that. And in those moments when I had to post in there, I was going, I'm not that accountable. Oh, I missed it today. Well, it was just like mind blowing to go, all of these people are being so accountable. What's my team doing? And I was like, oh, I have a lot of work to do, And I'm like, am I building people that are leaders and are going out and changing their lives and changing their families' lives forever? And it just really helped me understand what my blind spots were, because someone else who I look up to a lot was telling me like, hey, this is what I do. And I'm like, thank you. That's incredible. Yeah. So I started doing it with my team. And do I miss it some days? Yep. But I try every single day to be super accountable. And if I miss my calls, or I miss my workout, or I miss, my reading that day, I have to hold myself accountable to that and own it and go, no, I didn't read today. Well, what could I have done differently to plan that out better? Right? It's just owning it and going, I am in control of my destiny. And if I don't do something about it, it's just going to happen. And if you don't plan it, whatever is happening is just going to keep happening. So if you want a better life, you got to do something about it.
Yeah. So I've used WhatsApp whenever I've traveled overseas, but the app that I use for my group coaching program is called Voxer. Have you ever used that one?
No.
And the reason I love it is not only are you checking in with the group, right? But about specific things every single day. And you are speaking it out loud. And it is amazing. It's like a walkie-talkie in a sense. So everybody has to check in every single day. And when you hear yourself say the things that you didn't do, it is amazing how much just speaking out, because we could all write a couple sentences down on a piece of paper, but when you're speaking out 10 minutes, it goes to 15 minutes, I think, 15 minutes, and you're doing your daily check-in about all the things that you did and didn't do. And then people are giving you feedback. And it's amazing how, like, real quick in time, you can hear yourself saying the things and you're like, oh my gosh, I really didn't do the thing I was supposed to do. Or did I just say that out loud? And sometimes it's even like you got an idea, like, oh my gosh, I just said I was going to do this thing. And it just comes to you in such a different way. I don't know if you might want to check that one out, but I love the ability to do a Voxer message with a group, and everybody checks in and gives back responses to each other. So it's like everybody's holding each other accountable, and there's times that people miss, and that's okay. But just to be able to hear everybody else's, because, it's easier than having to read it, because you can just push play and still doing these other things. And sometimes like, oh my gosh, did that person just say that? I got to take a note. It is such a good, and then you can send things, you can actually type in there too. But I found that the ability to hear yourself say the things that you're saying and hear other people say the things, it's such an impactful thing.
Yeah, I love that. I'll look it up for sure. I like WhatsApp because I can do video chats as well. But it's like sharing your energy with other people is a really great way to get information across. Because if you're just texting or you're just putting a message in there, yeah, you did it, right? But can they feel your energy? Can you make an impact? Not really, right? Yeah. Being in person is number one, right? You can have the most influence on someone if you're in person, but yeah, just focusing on just increasing your communication in a more audible way, I think, is very important.
Well, it adds context as well, because on a text message, you don't know what somebody's actually feeling or thinking or how it's coming across. But like you said, in person, or at least on a video or a voice, you can hear if this person is actually having a great day and they're like happy and energized, you'll hear it in somebody's voice. And if they're like, oh, I'm checking in today and I was supposed to do this thing and I forgot, you're going to go, oh man,
They need some love.
their energy is pretty low and they might need some extra love today. Yeah. So it is amazing how much you can get out of video or voice chatting with somebody instead of just texting or emailing.
That's a conversation I want to have with every single one of my teammates. So I hope that they're all listening, because so many people are like, oh, I just text them. I'm like, okay, you can text them. That's fine. But you're not able to actually make that much of a difference unless you're speaking it. And I think that when you own that and just go, hey, I need to speak it, it's more fun. Like, yeah, if you go into a room full of people, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be the one who's there to learn and to take notes and to go through conversations with people and go, hey, I want to learn from you because you're doing better than I am in your business or whatever it is, right? And I think that during COVID, that was one of the things that I missed a lot, was the human interaction. Yeah. And I know we all missed that, but the first convention that we did in person post-COVID was like insane. Our Vegas convention just sold out in less than 12 hours. 15,000 tickets sold out in less than 12 hours. And I'm like, do you think that people are craving human connection or what? Like it's
even more so than ever. Yeah.
So when you go out there and you make that phone call, it shows you care. It just does. It really shows you care versus sending a text message like everyone else that you can just ignore, or like, hey, how's it going? Versus, hey, I'm thinking about you, like getting on the phone and going, hey, well, how's your day going? What's going on? How can I help you? Yeah. That's so important.
And, the clearest example of this for me is I live in Virginia Beach and we have this 3-mile down and back boardwalk. And I'll take my dog down there. And oftentimes, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, people in public are doing this with their phone. Mm-hmm. They're walking, they're zoned out, right? Yeah. I'm walking my dog. Sometimes I'll have headphones in, listening on one headphone so I can still hear anybody else. But a lot of times I'm just enjoying being outside and walking. And if you make eye contact with someone and smile and just say, hey, how are you doing? Like, happy Friday or whatever it is. The joy that you see, 99% of the people, unless they're just not in the good place of accepting this, are it's like, oh, wow, that person noticed me. Oh, wow, look at that smile on that person's face. The energy that you can share with somebody just walking down the street or walking down your neighborhood, if you just make eye contact and smile and say hello, is amazing. To get people up and out of whatever it is that's absorbing them in the phone.
You made such a good point there. Yeah. One of the tasks that I forced upon myself when I first started as an entrepreneur was to say hello to people, because I had such a fear of the phone that I was like, not doing it. Like, you can't make me. And I said, Alina, get out of your own head. Like, get out of your own head. You have to. And so when I'd go to the gym in the morning, I would literally just make a mental note that I had to say hello to 10 people. And I'll tell you, some people were like, what? And I'm like, hello. That's it. And they just like either keep walking or say hello back. But most of the time, people are very friendly. Like this morning, I went for a walk and these people are my neighbors, right? Like within a 45-minute distance of my house, I saw 4 or 5 people and I just said hello to all of them, because guess what? They probably want some like human interaction too. They're probably sitting at their house working from home going, I have to go to the grocery store, and they start getting anxiety because there's people, So it's like, how can I make their day today? Well, just say hello. That's it. And smile.
And, and like you said, there's going to be some people who don't accept it. Like, oh, why is she talking to me? I'm at the gym, or I'm trying to buy my groceries. Leave me alone, lady. Whatever it is, there's going to be some of those people who have that mindset. But there's also going to be a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, that person noticed me. Hi, how are you? Like, thank you for saying hi. And it not only impacts them, it impacts you, because doesn't it feel good to know that you made somebody smile?
Yeah.
Or you made somebody like turn from looking at their phone to having a conversation with you for 10 seconds, like it just makes both people happy.
Yeah.
And increases that energy, increases that joy in the world.
I love it. Well, what other advice do you want to give an entrepreneur who's like just starting out in business, who's maybe having some doubts and some fears? Maybe they lost a sale, or they're just frustrated, or, just in a bad place. What advice would you give them?
I think the best advice is to just keep moving forward, keep moving forward fearlessly, regardless of whatever loss or setback that you've had. Because if this is your true call, right? Like I'm doing these things because I know this is my true calling, is to help people who've experienced some kind of loss in these two different ways, right? Because when I started to do it in one way, I was like, well, I know how much of a difference therapeutically it can be on somebody who's experienced some kind of tragedy or loss to be outside.
Yeah.
So that's why I created those two things. But no matter what happens, and I've had setbacks and I've had pauses on the business of like, oh, I had too much going on in my life, let me pause it. But I've still never given up.
Right.
Like, it's like that if this is your true calling and passion, don't give up. Like, you're going to have setbacks. The best advice is to find somebody else you could reach out to. Like, goes back to that accountability partner, whether it's somebody in your field, or if it's somebody that's just in your city who's also an entrepreneur. In Virginia Beach, there used to be a group of women that would get together, female entrepreneurs. And I loved it. It was once a month. A business coach would get us all together and we would all share ideas and bounce things off of each other. That was also pre-COVID. So I don't know, it's not around here anymore, but something like that would be great. Some kind of accountability partner or business coach to reach out to. And then, journaling, writing down your frustrations, because sometimes you're so immersed in whatever is going on that's negative in your life. And you might not be able to change it too much in this moment, right? But if you can write it down on a piece of paper, not only does it get it out of your head in the forefront of your mind for the moment, it also gives you something that you can look at later and go, okay, let me work on one of these. Maybe the 10 calls that I made, or maybe the deal fell through. I can't do anything about it, but let's go. Tomorrow I'm going to find another deal. I'm going to reach out to 10 more people. Once you see the things that aren't going well on paper, it gives you it's kind of like an action plan of things you can focus on tomorrow. Instead of sitting there worrying about it for the rest of the day, just write it down, get it out of your head. I'm a firm believer in whether it's writing in an actual notebook. Sometimes everybody has their phone nowadays. Take your note section now and just write it in your note section. If you don't want to do that, you also have audio recording on your phone. Leave yourself an audio message. And just to get those, it's all about shifting that mindset, because we've all had failures, right? And you can get stuck in that, focusing on the failure, or you can shift it, and it requires some sort of action to shift, right?
Yes.
So by getting it out of your mind, of the forefront of your mind, whether it's on paper, audio, text message to yourself, and then focusing on something else, taking that action and go, okay, can't do that right now. What can I focus on? Can I reach out to 10 more people? Can I try to make a new deal? Can I find anybody go to the small business association in your city? See if there's any entrepreneurial type of mentoring or networking that's available in your area.
Yeah, just get resourceful.
What's that?
Just get resourceful.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many resources. YouTube has made life so much easier. You could even, you can do pretty much anything if you look at YouTube. So there's so many resources now today than there were, 10 years ago.
So my observation is that people just need to stop making excuses for themselves and just take the action and go for it. Because like you said, it requires action to shift. It requires action to get to where you want to go. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, it means you're taking the actions required to get to where you want to go. You're getting a little uncomfortable, letting us kind of punch you in the face a little bit, like you kind of got to get knocked down to get back up. And I think that when I had that trauma happen, it was a realization of how much I'm not being grateful and how much I'm just going with the flow and, just the mundane, just frustrated. But when I had that happen, it was kind of like hitting a reset button and just going, no, I'm super grateful for the people that I'm surrounded with. I'm super grateful for the fact that I've pushed myself for the last 2.5 years to do the podcast, to get out of my comfort zone, to challenge my own mental capacity and who I'm becoming. And I'm proud of the person I am today. And I'm like, I love it. I love it. Oh, it's so fun when people are like, oh, I didn't recognize you. I'm like, good. I'm not the same person,
Yeah.
And it's just because of the people that I associate with. It's people like yourself who are going out and doing good things in the world, that are actually making a difference and actually going out and challenging themselves to be better and to just give back to the community. And I love that. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And you touched on something that I feel like is so important, that if this is another change that people can make in their lives, is having a daily gratitude practice.
Mm-hmm.
Find something every single day to be grateful for. I mean, it could be the simplest things as I woke up today and I love the sheets that I have because they felt so soft in my body and it was cold outside and they kept me warm. I mean, it could be something as simple as that to something even bigger, that I have a house to live in, or that I have a car to drive, or I could afford the gas to put in the car.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of crazy nowadays. Just finding something every single day to be grateful for is so important. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, it's important. 100%. So we are unfortunately out of time today. So I want to make sure that people get access to you and your content and your hiking trips. I'm going to have to come down to the US and do that one of these days for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to meet up with you.
Or you can, bring the van up to Alberta and we'll meet up somewhere.
A little bit of a drive, but one day.
I will pack that room for sure. But yeah, where can people get access to you?
Well, the easiest way is on my Instagram, Ready for ADV, which I could send you the link to put in, or my website, aliciaober.com. Those are the two easiest ways. I'm on Facebook as well and LinkedIn, but I'm not as active as I am on Instagram.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ready for ADV. I will put that in the show notes for you guys so that you can go and follow her. But thank you again.
4. Yeah.
The number 4.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, that's it for today, folks. So make sure that you share the show if you got value from it, of course. We are a holistically grown program. So I'm excited that you guys are listening today. And I hope you got a lot of really good content that you can implement now in your business, in your life, in your families. And just make sure to go out and practice gratitude today and to smile at someone, because they're going to think you're weird and it's hilarious. So that's it for today. Pursuit of Relentless signing out.
Gonna think about it.